Lots to talk about this week, folks, on the Roundtable. April Ryan, White House correspondent for American Urban Radio Networks, so shy on the show. Robert Traynham, Washington Bureau Chief for the Comcast Network, that nice D.C. red tie. Sonya Ross, Race, Ethnicity, and Demographics Editor for the Associated Press. And in all black, looking like Johnny Cash, Joe Madison, Sirius XM Radio's Black Eagle. All right, folks. Come on now. Look at him looking like Shaft down there. Go ahead, Joe.
I like Shaft better than Johnny Cash.
I do, too.
He's a bad mother. Shut your mouth.
Johnny Cash had more money than Shaft did. Yeah. All right, folks are talking about the whole issue of, obviously, the pullout of Iraq. Lots of criticism of the president for the decision. Here's what Senator John McCain had to say.
It is clear that this decision of a complete pullout of United States troops from Iraq was dictated by politics and not our national security interests. I believe that history will judge this president's leadership with the scorn and disdain that it deserves.
When you look at the polling numbers, Americans have made it perfectly clear they are sick and tired of the war in Iraq. But also, the decision to pull the troops out on this date wasn't agreed to by President Obama. That was negotiated by President George W. Bush.
Right. I think, right, you're absolutely right. Look, President Obama has been very clear throughout his presidency and also throughout his campaign that he wanted to end the Iraq war. So there's nothing new there. I think what's interesting with what Senator McCain is saying is that obviously this emboldens, this is what he's saying, this is not what I'm saying. It emboldens our enemies. Obviously, Iraq is way too fragile to leave right now. Regardless of public opinion, we still have to be over there for our national security interests.
But we could not get the agreement with the Iraqi government to grant immunity for our troops.
That's true.
I would say that the president would have been negligent had he allowed U.S. troops to stay in Iraq without that immunity.
And reality is they wanted us to leave.
Yes.
Let's be honest.
It is their country.
Thank you. And the reality is we're not leaving. Remember now, we have the world's largest embassy in Baghdad, in the world. We have now 17,000 embassy employees, 17,000, let alone the number of contractors that are still there. But the bottom line is it's a sovereign nation, and the other reality is what you said. Republicans wanted us to come home, and here's the other thing. We shouldn't have been there in the first place.
$800 billion has been spent. And that's not even adding up the cost of treating our soldiers over, frankly, their lifetime.
There's an emotional cost and there's definitely a financial cost, which we are dealing with and feeling right now. This country, the people, the American public, we're tired. We're tired of hearing about our troops dying. We're tired of not seeing our family members home.
A couple of things. We must remind ourselves that 1441, the United Nations resolution, back in 2001 was violated not once, not twice, by 3 times with Saddam Hussein. At the time, we thought that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. We now know that to be not the case. But back then we didn't know that. I'll also remind everyone, and April remembers this, that during the Clinton administration, during the first Bush administration, and up to this Bush administration, Saddam Hussein consistently violated the no-fly zone. So again, in that context, neoconservatives, but also most Americans said, you know what, Saddam Hussein is a bad person.
But let's also say this. First of all, one second. Our CIA was pushed and prodded to get to that point. Our analysts kept saying we don't have the firm results. Second thing, which Americans do not want to own up to, and Ron Paul keeps talking about in these debates, we paid Saddam Hussein. He was on our side. When Saddam Hussein used chemical weapons against his own people, we knew about it and we said nothing.
But here's the issue. National intelligence, people of the national intelligence community said, yes, we needed to deal with Saddam Hussein, but that may not have been the time. And that was the issue. We had faulty intelligence going into Iraq, okay? And to some extent, we still have faulty intelligence in a lot of matters. But we had faulty intelligence telling us weapons of mass destruction that we never found. And then 9 years later, look what happened.
All this, you and that, faulty intelligence, hell, excuse me, I know it's Sunday morning. The American people were lied to.
Yes.
That was the bottom line. And now that the Bush administration officials are writing their memoirs, You've got Cheney arguing with Rice about what was said, what wasn't said. And if somebody wants to talk about how we were lied to, go interview Colin Powell.
We've seen the 1,728th Republican debate take place this year. Chump Trump will not be actually hosting a debate. Yes, Chump Trump. That's exactly what he is. Donald Chump Trump. That was a joke of an idea, him moderating a debate. And what is very interesting in all of these debates, all of a sudden, Newt Gingrich has risen to the top. Folks keep talking about Mitt Romney and Rick Perry. But the one person who has been consistent, right there in the top three constantly, has been Congressman Ron Paul. And people act like he doesn't even exist, but he has a chance to actually win Iowa.
Sure. I mean, he won the Iowa straw poll. I've been to Iowa 3 times now. Every time I go to Iowa, what I am fascinated by is by his ground game. I mean, his supporters, what Ron Paul had for breakfast this morning, people would cheer because he's that popular with his base. It's an interesting phenomenon in terms of the Ron Paul organization. There's a very good chance that he could win the Iowa caucus.
The GOP, it's interesting watching these debates because the Republicans can't stand it when Ron Paul calls them warmongers, when he blasts them for wanting to go to war in Iran, when he talks about the cost of all of these bases overseas. Then, of course, you have many Republicans who say, he is not kissing up to Israel with every single pronouncement, but he is saying some very uncomfortable things that his own party cannot stand someone to say to their fellow candidates.
But that's always a reality check. I mean, look, during 2008, Dennis Kucinich was that reality check on the left, on the progressive side. You always have someone on, for lack of a better term, on the fringe left or the fringe right, that is always that reality check and says, you know what, I may be the crazy uncle in the attic, but I'm speaking the truth.
But the crazy uncle is fun to listen to, isn't it?
Always.
I mean, and that's why. I mean, I almost like Ron Paul. I mean,
almost.
Well, when I say almost, only because he's in his libertarian point of view, he opposes civil rights.
Right.
Like the 64 Civil Rights Bill and the 65 Voting Rights Bill, so I can't hang with him on that.
He couldn't even vote to give mail to Rosa Parks.
Yeah, but the point is that he is part of this anti-Washington that exists.
He's really the originator of the Tea Party.
And quite honestly,
Rush Limbaugh,
and here's the other thing: he is consistent. Ron Paul is the same Ron Paul he was 10, 12 years ago. You could rerun the tape and you'll get the same Ron Paul.
But is the crazy uncle presidential?
No, that's why he won't win.
Hey, wait a minute. Yeah. We don't know that because it's everybody
win
but
what?
Mitt.
The nomination of the presidency?
Yeah, it's everybody. I don't know. It's everybody but Mitt. So we don't know if Newt does something crazy, talking about the kids again, going to clean the schools and everything. The 10-year-old black kids, that was code that he was using. You never know. Ron Paul, the crazy uncle, could wind up being number one. You never know.
Ron Paul's not going to be the Republican uncle.
He's
not. But having said that,
do you want to bet?
No, but here's the deal. Here's the deal. But here's one of the things that's bothered me constantly, and I've said this here on CNN elsewhere, is that we have no right to sit here and actually go through these predictions when not a single vote has been cast.
I agree.
I mean, when people start saying, is the race over? Newt's on top. No.
I agree.
And I don't believe
agree.
that the first 4 states will decide this whole thing. I think that this GOP race will look like the Democrats in 2008, where it will go through April, May, possibly June.
It may even go to a broker convention. In where is it, Tampa?
In Tampa,
yes.
Yeah.
But to your point, Roland, the people haven't spoken yet. The people in Iowa, South Carolina, and these true presidential battleground primary states have yet to speak yet. And what's interesting, to your point about the polling going up and down, who knows? We very well may see another candidate come out there that we don't even know about yet.
These debates are taking place against a backdrop in which sober Republicans are saying, what in the world? Why is Newt Gingrich on top? What do we need to do to get Romney up there?
I mean, the establishment is coming after Gingrich guns blazing.
We don't understand why this is happening. We thought if we got rid of Herman Cain and if we got rid of all this conversation, that maybe Mitt would surface to the top like cream. We don't know why this is happening. That debate is going on in the undercurrent. So they're content to allow the Bachmans and the Rick Perrys and the Ron Pauls to nibble on Newt Gingrich.
What's happening in the GOP, does it help the president? or is it simply a matter of that's internal family politics? He's still facing an uphill battle.
Well, I think just like the election is too early. Look, I suspect that come February, and the president's very smart at this, let them eat each other up. It's a circular firing squad. Why should I get involved in that? They're going to wound each other. They're killing each other all. But I bet you come February, we're going to see an Obama that we probably have never seen
And actually, in
before.
February, there are no Republican primaries in that month.
It's too much time between now and Election Day. The last 3 months just before Election Day is when everything can happen. Anything can happen now. But you have to remember those polls are a straw hole of right now. The economy is still bad, okay? But who knows what's going to happen? Gas prices may go down. People may get their jobs. But I'm going to say this to you. The narrative is for both sides, or if it's not, it should be. Jobs, the economy. Jobs, the economy. It's all the same. It's all cyclical.
I'll end with this here. I do not say it is too early because we talked about voter suppression at the outset.
That's true.
And that fact of the matter is a shift of several 100,000 votes could change the entire election. Right. And so I disagree with this whole, the convention of wisdom is you wait until Labor Day or the summer for a nominee. No, the reality is re-election, that process is right now.
Right.
Because
Get your
again,
license
if
and
you
go to the polls.
That's the bottom
Or
line.
state
That
ID.
could change up to 15 states that could determine this election.
Get your state
Organize
ID.
now.
Right.
State
April,
ID.
Robert, Sonya, Joe is her.
Go to the
Appreciate it. Thanks a
polls.
bunch.